Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I get to simplify the marketing and the mindset so you, the chiropractor, can increase your income, your impact, and your enjoyment in practice too. In today's episode, we're going to dive into some of the essential principles of marketing. These principles are going to help to empower you to connect with more people in your community, build a thriving practice, and make more meaningful impact to the lives that you get to come in contact with. Now, whether you're a seasoned chiropractor, in fact, even more so if you're a seasoned chiropractor for this episode, or whether you're just starting out, today's episode is going to be packed with some really valuable insights to help you navigate through the world of marketing so that you can create some resonance with your community that extends beyond just things like platform. You know, should I be on TikTok or Instagram, things like that as well. We're going to spend today exploring, and we're going to dive pretty deep into some of the marketing principles that have withstood, anyway, they've made it through the test of time despite the ever-changing landscapes. We'll discuss things like target audience, creating customer value, developing a compelling value proposition, building strong brand equity, and how these are the crucial elements. These are the principles that should be sitting behind everything that we do. Now, the idea for this podcast came to me a couple of weeks ago when I came across a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. I'm going to read it to you now as well, and you'll see where we're going. As to methods, there may be a million and then some, but principles are few. The man who grasps principles can successfully select his own methods. The man who tries methods, ignoring principles, is sure to have trouble. Now, when I read this, a number of light bulbs became flashing immediately in my mind. Our world nowadays is absolutely obsessed with methods, and it should be obsessed with principles. And we see this by the type of thing that's advertised. You know, we want the fastest way to lose weight. We want the hack to learn faster. We want, what are the secrets to a better night's sleep? And we're after methods continuously. This is something that I have chiropractors reaching out to me on a weekly basis. They're asking questions like, which platform should I be on now? Should I be on TikTok or Instagram, or should I be going YouTube? I'm hearing now that a video should be 1 minute. How do I make my videos look like yours? And what they're asking with these questions, understandably, is they're asking for methods. Now, I have been at earlier stages in my practice. I know exactly what this is like. I was obsessed with methods also, and I jumped from marketing strategy or tactic to tactic. We did killer ads, we did screenings, we did our screenings in this place and then that place, and then, we wanted to shift into our workshops and then social media. Now, this bouncing back and forwards is exhausting, and it's what many of us are doing. Now, one of the things that so many of us love about chiropractic, ironically, is that it's based on really strong principles. And that's why it will, not only has it stood the test of time, but why it will continue to stand the test of time as well. So these principles are things like, or they are, the body is self-healing. The nerve system is the master control and coordinating system. The spine's job is to protect that nerve system, and that when the spine becomes stressed, the body becomes stressed, and its ability to be able to coordinate and control becomes compromised. Then we can have methods for delivering this. We can have different techniques. Now, whether we have somebody at one extent that might be, Gonstead or a heavy manual adjuster, and the other end we can have somebody applying the method like a network spinal analysis. But because it's based on a principle, that's why this all works. And I was having a discussion with my community influencer group. So one of the things that we do in Community Influencer is that you get to do this real time with me. I will help you brainstorm and clarify this and work with you to put this in play. Now, you can get access to this obviously through the podcast, but if you want some help with this sort of stuff, as well as coming up with a bunch of tactics, then you should consider coming and joining me inside of Community Influencer. Now, this morning I was having a conversation with a wonderful chiropractor, a guy who I'm growing very, very fond of. I love the ethics and the morals where this guy comes from, 20 plus years in practice. And I started off by reading this quote to a group of us. And I said, I want you to spend some time writing down what you believe to be the timeless marketing principles. And he struggled. He couldn't come up with any. Now, I want you to think about that now. What do you think the marketing principles or the timeless principles are, that whether you be a chiropractor or a panel beater, whether you be wanting to run a hospital or whether you're wanting to build a new library, what are the principles that should underpin that? Now, not surprisingly, most people really struggle with this. And this in itself should be really illuminating for you. If you don't know the fundamental marketing principles, how are we meant to have success? It's wrong in some ways that we're not given this information very early on. I understand our universities, our colleges have a lot to teach us, but it would really help if we understood the fundamentals, the marketing principles with moving forwards. And so what I'm going to do in today's episode is I'll share some of them. Now, these are what I believe to be the marketing principles. There might be several more, and there's certainly a lot of overlap that go between these. They're not distinct lines, and they kind of, you could kind of think about bringing these all together a little bit like a Venn diagram as well. So let's work our way through these. And these aren't in necessarily any particular order, although there is some flow through that happens with them too. Marketing principle number one that stands the test of time, that regardless of what platform you're doing or whether you be online or offline marketing, is that we must understand our target audience. So knowing and understanding the needs, the preferences, the behaviors of your target audience is just foundational for effective marketing. It always has been and it always will be. Now, this is a hurdle that most chiropractors, particularly me in the early days, really got stuck. And we get stuck at it because our goal is to try and reach as many people as possible. Now, often there is a sense of urgency with our marketing. We're reaching out because we're struggling for new patients. And when somebody says to us, hey, listen, narrow in, focus on a group of people, and that's who I want to talk to, then logically our brain says, hey, listen, if I'm only going to talk to a few people, I'm not going to have the same results if I try and talk with everybody. And then on top of that, what you don't understand is that chiropractic is actually good for everybody, not just people with backaches. Now, let me remind you why we want to be doing this, and then I'm going to talk to you about at least the very minimal things that you would want to understand as well. So quite simply, we just don't have the manpower or the budget to be able to pull off talking to everybody. It looks like when we're seeing Nike or Apple, it looks like they're talking to everybody, and they're not. I'm going to go through a little bit, and we'll talk about who they're talking to and how they've gone about creating their compelling kind of customer value proposition. I'll give you some examples of that. But they're able to make it look this way because they have entire teams and they have enormous budgets as well. The second thing I want you to understand is that given the choice, as consumers, we rather choose specialists rather than generalists. Let me give you an example of how this shows out for many of us. I want you to think about what sort of car that you have. Now, I have an Audi, and when I get my Audi serviced, I go to an Audi dealership to get it serviced because my brain thinks that the Audi dealership, they understand Audis, and so they'll do a better job at servicing my car if I were to just take it to a place that out in the front that said, hey, listen, we service all European cars, or we service Ford and Toyota and Holden and you name it there too. So we have this navigation to go towards it because we think that they will do a better job. Now, the same is true when you're marketing your chiropractic practice. When you say, hey, listen, we help athletes, if I'm an athlete, it's going to stand out to me. When you position yourself as helping families, if that's the sort of care I'm wanting, that's going to stand out also. Now, on top of this, we need to think about, we are overwhelmed with the messages that are coming towards us nowadays, particularly on social media, but in the outside world as well. And our brain is constantly asking ourselves, is this relevant for me? And when we put out a message that looks like it's trying to talk for everybody, then my brain immediately goes, this is not for me, and so I don't listen. And so for those reasons, and many more, is why I want you to understand and begin your marketing with just talking to a particular person. Now, the good news is that when you choose this person, I've said this beforehand, you can think of this a bit like the nucleus of the cell. Circulating around the outside of them are several other people that will see your marketing, and they will come in also. Now, with regards to understanding your target audience, there's some bare minimums that I would like you to be able to really effortlessly articulate. And they are things like the demographic. What is the age range of this person, gender, location, occupation, income levels as well. Now, when you're thinking around age range, you need to be careful here because if we're talking to somebody, again, I was chatting with a chiropractor last week around this, and he shared with me that the age range of the women that they wanted to focus on was 20 to 40. And we needed to stop for a moment there. And I wanted to share with him how different the life is between a 20-year-old woman and a 40-year-old woman. They're almost unrecognizable. The fears, the frustrations, the life aspirations, what they value at those times are very different. One is unlikely to be a mother and one is. They're going through different stages hormonally. They're likely to experience very different health challenges. If you're wanting to, a big part of great marketing is compassion and empathy, being able to talk to that person. We'll chat about this a little later there too. And because there's such different needs with these groups, we need to tighten it back in. So as generally, a 10-year age gap is about as far as I would go there as well. You'd also want to understand the type of health concerns and conditions that these people are likely to come and see. What are the primary reasons that somebody might put on their intake form as well? You'd want to understand things like their lifestyle activities, their hobbies, their interests. It'd also be worth finding out and clarifying their mindset towards health. At our practice, we spent some time doing this on the weekend, and we're looking for parents, the type of person that we often see in our initial consultation, that we ask them, hey, listen, what are you doing for a relief for this? Are you taking any medication? And they typically come back and say things, no, I'm not that type of person. I don't like to take medications. That's our type of person. Now, this type of person is also much more likely to shop down at the natural health food store. They're likely to read books in around this. If the choice is available to them and they can afford it, they will choose organic. They have some basic awareness in around food and nutrition and lifestyle. This is the sort of person that we like to. We might want to understand their communication preferences. And so this might look like, what platform are they on? Where are they? Do they tend to be on TikTok, or do they tend to, want to receive emails? Do they read books? Understanding this is going to help you find this person also. And then also, when you're thinking about these demographics, you'd also want to find out and do some research on possible referral sources. Question to ask yourself this is, who else shares this audience? Because that would be somebody that we would want to build relationships with. Is it kind of gyms? Is it natural health food stores? Is it clothing places in your community? But they are the things that you would want to understand at a bare minimum about your audience. Okay, so let me just quickly go over those again. Demographics, health concerns and conditions, lifestyle activities, hobbies and interests, mindset towards healthcare, communication preferences, and then, who else shares this audience. So that's the first of the marketing principles that everything needs to be built upon. The second one here is that good marketing should create customer value. Now, I'm going to say customer a lot in this. That's just the way they've written down. I often think about that, but you can think of it patient, practice member, however you like to, language that as well. But I'll be using customer a lot through my notes as I'm reading through here. Good marketing is not just about interrupting people. Good marketing should be like a welcome guest in your house, not an interrupting pest. It can actually be valuable for us. Now, a thing to think about here is that value is incredibly subjective. This is why we need to start with that first point there, is deciding who do we want to be valuable for. As I mentioned, what is valuable for a woman in her 20s is often very different from what is valuable for a woman in her 40s. So take some time here when you're looking at your marketing and you're thinking about the outreach that you're having into your community. Is this actually valuable? One of the questions you might want to, because people are going to be paying for your marketing, and they're either going to be paying with it in their attention. Okay, so we're asking them to stop on social media and watch your video, read your blog. Maybe we're asking them to come into the practice and come along to a workshop. And whilst they might not be paying with their money, they will be paying with their time. And so there needs to be value. And the goal should be is that it's always more valuable than the time they put into it. When you do that, you build massive amounts of trust. Okay, this is part of the foundations of building relationships as well. Now, the third point that we move into in terms of principles of, foundational principles of marketing is it should be built upon developing a compelling value proposition. Now, sometimes this is called a USP, or unique selling proposition, which to me is a bit of a kind of icky term. Yeah, no, I know that selling is great when it's done ethically and morally and with the best intentions, but there's something about that USP I don't like as well. But what do I mean by developing a clear and compelling value proposition? Okay, so this is, in essence, it answers the questions, why should a customer choose you? Now, we were sitting down in our practice on the weekend, and I asked one of our new grads who works with us, a wonderful person, and I said, why should somebody come and see you as opposed to the chiropractor down the road? Now, that's a really difficult question to answer, particularly when you're a new grad, but it also is a difficult question to answer if you've been in practice a long time. Now, when I would get asked that question, it would come up in different ways. My answer, I'd often say, listen, I don't really know what the person down the road does, but let me tell you what I do. And then I can start to communicate what is unique about our practice. So I want to share with you, we're going to go through some examples here of Nike and then Apple in terms of what their value proposition encompasses. And then we've kind of created a bit of a fictional chiropractic practice, and we'll share that value proposition for you as well. So Nike, they tend to encompass things like performance and innovation. Okay, so they want to deliver high performance products that enhance athletic performance. And also there's a real focus on technology and innovation. How can we get new and better? That's very much along with Nike as well. Inspiration and motivation, this idea of just do it. One of the t-shirts that I have embroidered inside of it on many of the tags, in fact, a lot of Nike's clothes, is this idea of if you have a body, you're an athlete. And so there's something inspirational and motivational about the marketing that comes from Nike. Again, they want to have a real focus in around design and style. So they have their feel of what they think is cutting edge design and style. And then also this idea of community and connection. Lots of their advertisement, their marketing is really focused on fostering community and connection. So let's think about Apple for a moment. What might be the value proposition of Apple? Okay, so here's the things that I've written down about Apple. Simplicity and intuitive user experience. Now this comes across when they say things like, it just works. You open up your phone, turn it on, and you can start using it straight away. There's a battery inside there. For most of us, we're not reading the instruction manuals of our phone, our iPad, our iMac. We just turn it on, off we go. The user experience is very very simple and intuitive for us to use. And then also another part there of their value offer they're putting forward there too is cutting edge technology and innovation. So similar to what Nike was talking about before, this is something that we expect from Apple. Ecosystem and integration. Now, not only is this good marketing, but it's good retention as well because, I have an iPad, an iPhone, an Apple Watch, their earbuds, and I have their computers as well. And they all work so beautifully in together. Okay, this is part of their brand message. This is part of their compelling value offering that everything is going to work as well. And then of course there's design and aesthetics. Stuff just looks great. There's something pleasurable about even just opening an Apple product, and that is absolutely on purpose as well. And then finally they have this idea of personal empowerment. Now we saw this recently with one of the advertising campaigns in around, I think it was iPhone 13, where they were talking about Hollywood in your pocket. The idea was that if I bought this phone here, this was going to empower me to make those movies I've always wanted to, those really cute little family movies, or maybe it was movies, to promote my business. But is this idea that Apple empowers us as individuals to put technology into use? And so they are examples there of a compelling value proposition. So what might they be for your practice if you were to think about that? So let's give an example here of what I call happy family chiropractic. This is a vitalistic, wellness, subluxation-based chiropractic practice. So their value proposition might be comprehensive family care, okay? So our practice is dedicated to providing holistic care that goes beyond just addressing the symptoms and focuses on overall well-being, okay? Next one there they might have is a proactive wellness approach. We believe in the power of preventative care and lifestyle improvement. Our approach empowers families to take charge of their health. Okay. Number 3 here is a personalized treatment plans or management plans. There's no cookie cutter. We're in here. We're going to take each and every individual, their wants and their needs into account. And we're going to make sure that we put together a plan that keeps all of that at the front of mind. Education and empowerment. Okay. We believe in equipping families with the knowledge and tools they need to make informed decisions. Okay. And then finally, it's about long-term relationships. Okay, so we're committed to building lasting relationships with families, not just offering quick fixes. So that is the value proposition. Now, that value proposition is not for everybody. Now, there are many people out there that want to come into the chiropractor, want to get their neck cracked, and off they go. They don't want a consultation. They don't want any of that kind of stuff. They don't want x-rays. They don't want scans. They've been to chiropractor before. They just popped and cracked my back, and off I went. Our value proposition should be talking to our people. There are plenty of families out there that read that and say, yes, this is for us. We're frustrated and overwhelmed. We're sick of the antibiotic merry-go-round. We want to look at a different opportunity and options for our family as well. So that is something that you'll need to spend some time doing, really crafting. What is it that is your value proposition? What is it that's different about you, and why should people come and see you? Now, don't expect this to be something that rolls off your tongue in 5 or 10 minutes. You might need to spend a couple of hours doing that. And with a help of AI tools like whether it be Google Bard or ChatGPT. There are several tools that can help to speed this up for you as well. So let's move on to the next of the marketing principles, and this is building strong brand equity. Okay, now developing a strong brand equity includes brand values, positioning, consistent messaging, all the sort of things that help to differentiate your practice from your competitors. All right, now Nike and Apple have successfully built strong brand equity by consistently delivering on their respective value propositions. So this one here kind of is a little bit kind of sequential. We've decided who our audience is. We know how to deliver value to them. Then we've gone and articulated what is really our value proposition. And then there's a matter of consistency with that. Showing up week after week, day after day, month after month, year after year, and actually delivering on that is what builds brand equity. Now, along with it, when we tend to think about brand, we think about logos and colors and things like that too. Incredibly important that matches, that our brand logo and fonts, the feel that we have needs to match the actual practice value proposition. You know, my website looks very different if it's a website for athletes versus if it's the happy family chiropractor that I talked about before. So, you know, a couple of things to think about before we've done this. We've established really clear brand identity that reflects your values, your missions, and your unique selling propositions. Okay, so memorable brand name, visual elements that resonate with your target audience, they are things that go into that too. And then it's just consistency from there on, actually backing it up. So consistency in the way that your videos look, the way that your social media looks, consistency with how often that you're showing up as well. The fifth element of marketing principles here is that all marketing needs to be based on effective communication and messaging. And that is crafting persuasive and target marketing messages that actually get people's attention, okay? It generates interest and it conveys the value of your offering as well. Now, this means I'm going to encourage you to invest your time and your money in developing your ability to be able to persuade and influence. Now, I want to clarify those two words there. I'm just going to give you my meaning of them. I don't know that this would be necessarily reflected in a dictionary meaning, but when I think about persuasion and influence, I think about helping people towards a future that's better for them, okay? Now, it can be good for you too, because it could build your practice and put money into your accounts and do all those type of things there too. But at very least, it should be a win-win. And I actually think that there is value that when you can offer something that is more valuable to the customer than it is to you, then you're on the precipice there of building an absolute gold mine. And this could just look like this. If somebody pays $50 for their adjustment, but they get $100 worth of value, you better believe that you're going to be one of the last things that they stop doing. You know, if money starts to get tight, we need to make sure that this is what I mean by influence and persuasion. Now, manipulation is not win-win. Manipulation is about it being better for me than it is for you. And this ultimately won't work for you in business. It won't work with you in your marketing. There's only so long you can do this for. It's a bit like, killing the goose. We want to see if there's more golden eggs inside there, but we have to make sure that our messages are at the very least win-win, at least as good for the customer as they are for you, but can you actually make them better for the customer than they are for you also? Now, inside of this, how can you go about, building your skills with regards to this? There's a couple of things. If you're looking for someone to help you with this, I really love the work of Martin Harvey, and pretty much everything that Martin does, we buy it. We use Martin as a resource to train our staff. He's got lots of recordings that you can continue to train your staff with. He has a podcast that's helpful on this stuff as well. But one of the books that I love that will help you with this is a book written by Dr. Robert Cialdini. He has a book called Influence. And inside of that, he talks about there being 6 pillars of influence: social proof, likability, reciprocity, consistency, authority, and scarcity. And you want to develop an excellence, a skill set of being able to communicate and use those. Okay, now again, we're going to talk about ethics in a moment here, but if we can use those in a win-win to help people get what they want, then your communication, your messaging will become much more effective. And so that will always sit underneath the marketing principles, is that we must be effective with our messaging and our communication. Let's move on to number 6 here, and this is about building customer relationships. Our marketing, and again, this could be also about building community. We can think about this. One of the things that is lacking nowadays and that people are hungry for is relationship, and they're hungry for a community. We can be tempted to go for a quick fix with our marketing, reach out there and do things that maybe aren't about building relationship. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about before. It goes back to manipulation as opposed to influence and persuasion. So we must understand that underneath everything is that we're about building long-term relationships. You need to make sure that our marketing is doing that too. Principle number 7 there too is all about ethical and responsible marketing, upholding ethical standards, respecting consumer privacy, practicing responsible marketing. These are all foundational principles as well. When we move away from this, whilst it might get us results in the short term, it never works in the long term. And when a brand becomes damaged, we talked about before in terms of building brand equity, it takes so much time to restore that. And it's not worth the effort there. If we're consistent with this and we're making sure that we're ethical with the decisions that we're making, that's ultimately what will be foundational to really great results with your marketing. And then finally here too, number 8 here is that regardless of all of these, what we must be constantly doing is we must be constantly monitoring and adapting because things change, okay? Now this might mean we want to subtly change our value proposition. This might mean, because maybe it's not connecting. We've decided who our target audience is and then we've decided our value proposition. If they're not meshing together, we need to change one of those. We're testing our messaging and our communication. If it's not hitting, how can we improve that? And this is why we must be continuously monitoring and adapting as well. They're all principles. They're all timeless principles that regardless of what social media platforms come in the future, what sort of offline or online marketing that you're doing, whether you're wanting to stimulate internal referrals or whether you're wanting to build relationships with other health providers, we must keep these principles underneath. So where do we go from here? Well, I'm going to encourage you to take things back to basics. I'm going to encourage you to put this together because in some ways this could be referred to as your North Star, okay? The goal would be, and maybe you want to sit and listen to this episode numerous times with your staff, but you should be able to effortlessly articulate who your target audience is, including all of those points I talked about before from things like demographic and age and stuff like that as well. What you want to be able to do is assess, are the current strategies that you're doing, are they creating customer value? Is there somebody out there that sees value? Would they pay? Are they happily paying with their time, at least for their attention as well? Have you clarified and can you articulate your compelling value proposition, which is just this? Can you answer the question, why should I come and see you? Maybe not why you're better than the chiropractor down the road, but why should I come and see you? That's at the very foundation. If there are 2 things that you should be able to do after this, 1, tell me who it is that you want to talk to and tell me why I should come and see you. That, there are 2 principles. They probably sit above everything else as well, okay? Then think about consistency because that's what will build brand equity. That's what will create literally a tidal wave that with time, okay, will be drawing people towards you. Spend some time either following up Martin Harvey's resources, his podcasts, buy his courses as well. You should certainly read Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, and develop a competence or an excellence with your communication. Always focus on building community and relationships as well. Make sure that you're remaining responsible for your marketing and keep ethics at the very forefront as well. And on top of all of these, regardless of, is that you need to be constantly monitoring and adapting. Folks, that's it. That's some foundational marketing principles through there. And let me finish this off as I started. I want to share that wonderful quote there from from Ralph Waldo Emerson as we wind things up here again. As to methods, there may be a million and then some, but principles are few. I've shared 8 with them here, or 8 marketing principles. The person who grasps principles can successfully select their own methods. What this means here is that if you master these principles here, the platform you're on is not important, whether you be online, digital marketing, offline. These principles will help you be successful as well. The person who tries methods but ignores principles is sure to have trouble. That's the experience that I see with so many chiropractors out there nowadays. Folks, invest your time and energy into principles, not methods, and watch the results change. As always, thanks for all that you do. Your community desperately needs you to know this stuff and apply it. It'll make a difference to their lives and the impact that you have across your community. Thanks for watching. See you back here real soon. Bye. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.